I almost said good morning, but it's like afternoon now, isn't it? I was close. Good afternoon. Thrive, how you doing? Now, just remember, a few months ago, we were cursing the snow. So now we're like, son, what are you doing to us? But I do love summer. It's like one of my favorite times it is the favorite time of the year. If it was like this all the time, I would actually not complain because I could sweat all day and be cool. I'll just drink water and I'm good. Can't actually heat up in the wintertime. Doesn't work because there's not a lot here, you know? So my favorite summer memory, one of them, as a child, my dad made this huge bowl of popcorn. It was like monstrous bowl. Found the biggest bowl in the house that he could find, and he popped all this popcorn. I was like, Dad, what's the big bowl of popcorn for? What are you going to do? He said, movie night. I was like, well, we have movie nights like all the time, so why is it big bowl of popcorn movie night? Like, was there something different or special going on? And he's like, oh yeah, just wait, I got something awesome planned. It's like, all right. He said, go out on the front porch. I went out on the front porch and just kind of sitting there, and my dad opens the door, his foot, and he's got the TV in his arms. And it was back in the day when I was, a kid in the 80s. So TVs were like this big, like that, by that, by that. And I got big arms also. It's like, it was huge. So he comes out and he sets it down on this table like, bam. I was like, we're watching TV on the front porch? He's like, yep. It's going to be awesome. My dad did this with me when I was a kid, and now it's going to be awesome. So we actually got down off the porch, sat in the grass in lawn chairs, and we're watching TV with this big monster bowl of popcorn the size of a beach ball. And I'm like, well, what are we going to watch? He's like, one of the best movies of all time. I said, okay. Superman? He's like, no. I was a kid, so I love Superman. And he pushed play on the VCR, video cassette recorder. And all of a sudden, this cool music pops up. It's like, not that one. Different cool music popped up. That one. I was like, what's this, Dad? What are we watching? He's like, we're gonna watch Rocky. I was like, okay, I'm in. I'm up for this. And I watched Sylvester Stallone come out, we're watching the movie, and he's boxing, he's fighting Mr. T, because Mr. T's awesome too. And I'm just eating the popcorn on the front lawn watching Rocky, and this music comes on, and it's like the training scene. You remember the training scene where he drinks eggs raw, and I'm like, I could do that. I could totally do that, and I would have muscles like Rocky. And then he's in the freezer, and he's punching the sides of beef, and you're hearing cracking noises in the ribs of the cow, and you're like, I could totally crack a rib of a cow if I gave him a jab, a hook. I was like, yes, I could do that. And then he's doing the sit-ups on the beam, he's all the way there, and he's coming up, and he's going down, and he's up, and I'm like, I could totally do that. And then the final scene, he's running through the city, he's running, and he gets to the big stone stairs. That's Mount Olympus, it's huge. And he runs all the way to the top. He gets to the top, the music's going, the fish are in the air, and you're like, I want to be Rocky. Holy cow, this is the best movie ever. Now, imagine that entire scene without the music. It's awkward, isn't it? You're like, okay, now he's punching something. Okay. Oh, why is he punching a cow? That's just weird. Okay, he's doing some sit-ups. Cool people do those. I could probably do that. That's interesting. He's running through town, and all you hear is... This is kind of a creepy scene. Okay, it's interesting. And he gets to the top and he's like, yeah, yeah. And it's just as awkward as you're feeling right now with me doing it. Except maybe even more so because you're like, what is this? This is just a weird movie. So you take away the music, and then all of a sudden the emotional connection that I have to Sylvester is gone. It's just disappeared, absolutely gone, because soundtracks, storytellers know that soundtracks provide emotional connection to what the people in the story are actually feeling. Now I can feel what Rocky feels. I can feel that he feels like, yeah, victorious, because this music is helping communicate what he feels. Without the music, I don't know what he's feeling. He's just some guy running through the streets, huffing like a weird guy. So it's okay, soundtracks help us do that. So here in this series, we wanted to create a soundtrack for you using the songbook of the Bible. The Bible has an entire songbook inside of it. I don't know if you knew that, but the book of Psalms are all worship songs from the ancient church, way back, thousands of years ago. They're just psalms, songs, prayers are all in there. So we wanted to create this cool soundtrack for you, not just a soundtrack, but a playlist, like a summer playlist. Playlists are cool, right? We create playlists for everything we do. We got Hanging in the Sun in the Summer playlist. We got the I'm Cooking Dinner playlist. That's like 25 songs long because it takes forever to cook dinner sometimes. You got the Cleaning the House playlist. You got the Running playlist. You got the Workout playlist. And you put songs in there that are going to help you feel something to rise up to take on whatever it is. Right? When I was a kid, I bought like stock in blank cassette tapes because I created playlists like crazy. This is before digital stuff, right? You remember cassette tapes? They were like these rectangle things with wheels inside of them that had like tape wrapped up inside of it, and you put it in a cassette tape recorder and you shut it and you hit play. If it wasn't in the spot you wanted, you had to like hit fast forward and get through the tape because the music's on the tape somehow. It's like on this tapey stuff, and it passes over a thing and you hear music. It's crazy. So if you wanted to make a playlist back in the day, you had a dual cassette tape recorder. You remember the dual cassette tapes? You open them up. You put the album, because we had albums, into the cassette tape and shut it. And then on this side, you put the blank cassette tape and you shut it. And then you queued it up because you couldn't just touch a screen and the song was there. That's not how it worked. You had to find the song where it began, like yes, fast forward, and play, nope, fast forward, play, nope, fast forward, play, too far, rewind, play, pause. There it is. Then over here, you hit record and play at the same time, and you waited to, you got like, okay, a little bit of silence, not awkward, okay, right there, and then you had to be ambidextrous and be like, bam, pause on both of them at the same time. So when this started playing, this was recording. And then you sat there for the whole song, right? Because you couldn't just be like, drop, 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 put it on my phone, I'm gone. It's not how cassette tapes worked. You had to listen to the entire song. Now, if your jam was on the radio, because you didn't have the money to buy Columbia House, you had to actually wait for the song. So you're like, you got blank here, cassette tape, record, play, pause, and then you had the DJ, he's talking, and you're like, oh, my jam's coming up, it's about to play, it's coming, stop talking. So you missed the first 10 seconds of the song because the DJ's talking, you didn't want it, and then you're like, he stopped talking, bam! You had to be fast, really fast, and then you waited again for the whole song. You didn't just like, okay, drag and drop, we're done. And then you had to hit pause before the commercials came and interrupted the last 10 seconds of your song, because you don't want to listen to commercials in your jam. So you created these cassette tape playlists this way, and it was an investment of time and blood and sweat and tears. And they're like, oh, I missed the song on the radio. Now I got to wait an hour and a half until they play it again. So they did that. You get it, and then you put it in your Walkman. A Walkman was about like something about this big, size of my Bible, that you strapped to your hip. And it had this wire, it ran on batteries, like AA batteries. You popped them in, and they lasted one cassette. And then you put the headphones on, and the headphones were like these flimsy metal tin things with the foamy things that just kind of, they were about as big as your ear. And you listen to it, and it was like listening to tweeters. It was like there's no bass in it whatsoever. But you got to listen to your jam on the fly, on the go. So there I am, me and my buds, we're going to go down to the high school and run track, because that's what we just did. We ran, it was like NASCAR, but with legs. It was great. We just ran around in circles all day. So we get there, and I'm usually the guy that we're running, and then all of a sudden my brain starts telling my body, what are you doing? This is stupid. You're hurting yourself. Stop it. And then I was like, okay, I'm done, guys, I'm done. So I was like the sprinter. I'm like, I'm gonna run really fast for a short amount of time. All done, guys, I'm the hero, walking off, I'm good. That's like what I did. But my friend's like, let's do a 4-mile race. I'm like, why? Why would you do that to yourself? 4 miles, that's a long miles. That's 4 of them. That's like around the track like many times. It's beyond NASCAR, this is dumb. But what I did, because they always whoop me on the long distance, is I created a playlist of Green Day, Yes, Green Day is old enough to be on cassette tapes. Y'all don't know that he's old enough to be your dad, teenagers. That's how old Green Day is. So I'm listening to Green Day in my Walkman, and I am just like running, and I like smoked him. I was just like flying, and everyone's like, what got into this guy? And I'm like coming around the track, and then all of a sudden I got him in my sights. I'm like, I am about to lap these guys. I am flying, I am running. This is amazing. I lapped him. So we get done the race, and I experienced what's called the runner's high. Like, holy cow, that's the only time in my life I've ever experienced it, but all of a sudden pain was gone. It just didn't exist. And I was like, I'm gonna keep going. I crossed the finish line, and I ran 4 more laps, and everyone's like, Tom, we're done. And they're like laying on the grass. I'm like, almost, I'll be there. And I'm just like round and round and round and round. And it happened because I had this sweet playlist in my ears that made my mind forget how tired my body was. It told my brain, you can do this. It told me, you got a couple more laps in you. So that's what music can do. It helps us rise up to the situation at hand and just takes us to another level, to another place. That's what music does. That's why playlists are important. And now we don't have to spend so much time making our playlist. But we wanted to create this playlist for you with 5 psalms for the 5 weeks of July to kind of enhance your summer. Now, back in 2012, one of these psalms actually saved my life, probably literally. 2012 was the worst winter in the history of Michigan winters. It was awful. It just snowed, and then it didn't stop snowing until like July or something. It was crazy. It was negative 30 the whole time. It just got stuck. Like, it was on repeat, like cold and awful. Yep, we're going to play that again today. Yep, we're going to play it again today. I'm like, could someone take winter off repeat, please? Because this is too much for me. My car was even protesting, saying, can't do it. Not going to start today. Negative 30. We just don't start in negative 30. You just go back in the house. You're not going anywhere today. That's what my car, maybe my car didn't like it. You know, it was like, this is awful. But it wasn't just the fact that it was cold and winter wanted to kill me that made this season so difficult. But 2012 was a difficult season of my soul as well, paired with the awful winter. I was at this church, and I was kind of like co-pastoring with one of my best friends. And we had kind of taken this church to another level. He had taken over where his dad was pastoring for like 50 years, and he took over as the son to pastor, and it's like, all right, we could do something here. This is going to be amazing. And we were experiencing so much life and fullness. Now the old guard were like, we don't know about this guy. But they hung on for 5 years. One day he realized, you know what, I can't lead only half the church where we need to go. I'm not the guy to do this. And he was absolutely right. So he started interviewing at a church in Wisconsin. And he came up to me one week and he's like, hey, I got a job in Wisconsin, and I trust that you can take this church where it needs to go. I was like, yeah, I could do that. We'll figure it out. You go to Wisconsin and get a gig. I totally trust you, and I'll figure out what to do here. Well, the church imploded because at that time there was $1,000 left in the checkbook. So I don't know if you know this, but like in a church of like 600 where they have multiple staff, you kind of like a little more cushion in the budget than that. We're overspending. Church is bankrupt. So one Sunday I got up and I said, welcome to this church. I'm Tom, and it's got some announcements to make, 3 of them. We fired these 3 office ladies that y'all really love because we're out of money, because we were overspending and we didn't know it with all this stuff. And our pastor is taking the church in Wisconsin. Let's worship Jesus, y'all. All right, that was an awful Sunday. I tried to take it a month. It just got worse. People were angry. I got death threats, like a literal death threat. People were like, I know where to bury bodies, y'all. You're ruining this church, and I'm gonna make it so they can't find you. And they were angry and very serious. And I was like, I kind of believe this person right now. I got cussed out on the phone by longstanding church members that were just totally upset with everything. And then these 2 groups were warring at one another, and I'm stuck in the middle, and I'm like, I'm going to leave now. I'm just going to go. I'm praying to God. I'm like, God, could you find me a different job? Because this one's awful. It's killing me. It's horrible. I don't like it. And all of a sudden, like, I started to get this feeling in my soul of, I need to escape. I need to get out of here. I need a different place, a different situation. I need something. God, will you move? Will you provide? Will you do something? And nothing happened. I called the church interventionists. They came in. They took hold of the church. They kind of brought some stability. And then for 2 years, I worked myself to a bone with this guy, restructuring the whole church, rebuilding the whole church, regaining trust of the people. And I actually did make up with the person who cussed me out and the person who gave me a death threat, and it was a tearful moment, and I was like, oh, wow, Jesus does. But there was 2 full years where I'm like, God, why haven't you done something yet? Why didn't you move? Why haven't you provided? It's obvious. This place is horrible for me. I dropped down to 150 pounds. That's 20 pounds lighter than this. There's not a lot of this to go on right now, right? There's 20 pounds lighter than this. I was emotionally burnt out, physically burnt out. I had nothing left. I ended up curled in fetal position on the washer crying one night. I'm just like, I have no idea what to do. It was the worst season I've had to endure in a church situation. And I kept praying, God, would you change it? Would you make it different? Would you make it better? Would you save me? Would you help me escape? And then one day, I started to say, this is how I'll start my morning. Me and Carol will have coffee, we'll read the Psalms, and we'll read Thomas Merton together. And that saved my life. When I came to Psalm 62, I just broke down. I'm like, that's why I'm here now. Psalm 62 says, for God alone my soul waits in silence. From him comes my salvation. You see, I was not waiting in silence. I was waiting in resignation. It's like, all right, God, what are you doing? You're totally not doing what you're supposed to be doing. This is totally not working. You're obviously sleeping on the job here. And so the silence that I experienced there was more of a fine. I'm going to stay right here. I'm going to keep doing this. And it's hard and I hate it. Fine. That's not the silence that this is talking about when it says my soul waits in silence. It's not a fine. And then I experienced the other end of it, and it's like, well, fine. I have nothing, absolutely nothing left to give. I don't know what to do. I don't know what's going on. This is hopeless. I have nothing. Hands up. That's not the silence of just cold resignation or helpless whatever. It's not the silence that this psalm is talking about. You see, the word for silence, the Hebrew word used here is only used 4 times in the entire Bible, and 3 of them are in this one psalm. It's a different word for silence, and it means a silent stillness on the inside. It means a posture of waiting, the calming of inner restlessness. So to sum it up, it's a patient, hopeful, faithful trust in God alone. That's what this word silence means. You see, this word, this psalm helped me enter into the reality of the situation as it was presenting itself to me, and not try to find a way around it through optimism and say, I'll just jump around and skip this whole really tough season of my life and wind up over here in a new job that loves everything and it's amazing over here. It's not the kind of silence that tries to dodge life with optimism or tries to just like pessimistically sour everything. This is the kind of silence that enters into reality as it presents itself to us in order to rise above it, in order to transcend it, in order to step up, because you cannot learn hope, faith, love, virtues like these by sidestepping the things that are going to teach it to you and reveal it to you and build it in you and strengthen it in you. There's no way around tough seasons in life. You have to enter them in this posture of heart, which is a quiet, hopeful faith that says, you know what, help is on the way, but love is already here. And that is enough for today. Apostle Paul said something very similar to that when he says, my grace is sufficient for you. It's God's answer to him. When he's like, hey, when are you going to fix my situations, God? See, hope is one step beyond despair. You have to step into despair to learn what hope is, because you can't know what hope is until you know what despair is. Otherwise, it's just optimism. Faith is one step beyond uncertainty. So you have to enter into places of doubt, uncertainty, and unsureness about your faith so that you can learn what faith is. Because if you don't enter in, then all you are is a hollow facade of who you wish you were on the other side of it. And you can't get to that place by sidestepping and going around and jumping over. You got to step into life as it presents itself to you in that quiet, hopeful, trustful silence in God. That is a calming of the inside that says, you know what, love is here. Help is coming. You see, peace is one step beyond distress. Salvation is one step beyond forsaken. Love is one step beyond misery. You've got to step into these situations to know what it is to have redemption. See, when you expect that life is just going to be easy and that God is supposed to come and just rescue you all the time and you could sidestep, when that's your expectation, then it creates resentment towards God. Because expectations are premeditated resentments where you're like, I expect life to be this way, and then it doesn't go that way, and you get angry about it, and you direct your anger at people or God. You're like, you should have been different. You should have been different. You should have done something. You should have done something. I should have been something. And it creates resentments when you have all of these expectations that life is supposed to be comfortable. But if life is just comfortable all the time, then we're just a hollow and fragile facade of who we wish we were. So we have to step into fully those situations which will teach and strengthen us in order to rise above them. I read a prayer from Thomas Merton in this season of life where I was just getting blamed and criticized. I was the lightning rod of the church, last pastor standing. And I read this song. I just wanted to escape. And I read this prayer from Thomas Merton. He said, if you allow people to praise me, I shall not worry. If you let them blame me, I shall worry even less. If you send me work, God, I shall embrace it with joy. If you send me rest, I will rest in you. Only save me from myself. Save me from my own private poisonous urge to change everything, to act without reason, to move for movement's sake, to unsettle everything you have ordained. Let me rest in your will and be silent. When I read that, paired with that Psalm 62, I thought, I have to stay right here in the midst of this and not try to escape and disrupt everything that's going to hone and strengthen me just so I can experience stability and comfort. That's not the way of Jesus. The way of Jesus is that Christ embodies our humanness. He comes, God himself comes in human form, enters into life as we experience it, you and I. All of this. And he experiences all of our life, all of our tragedies, all of our hopes, desires, fears. He experiences them all. And even the thing that unifies humanity throughout ages and nations and genders, and that is death. You see, death was swallowing up the human race, and God could not reach into death and pull us out because God is too big to reach into that small little crevice. And so God becomes human, enters into our existence, lives a life so pure that when he steps into death in that human form, death cannot contain Jesus. Death cannot hold Jesus. He enters in and utterly defeats and disarms death by death. 3 days later, Christ is resurrected. You see, God is not absent, God is not distant, God is not ambivalent to our sufferings, but God is with us. God comes to us disguised as our life. And the very thing we want to dodge and get around is the very place that God is found. And we need to step into it because that is where we partner with God in our own redemption and learn the skills and character and traits to rise above it. Because that is what death did to Christ. It swallowed him up, and then he utterly defeated it and resurrected. And now we can step into any kind of death that we may experience because of the power of Jesus that resides within us, and now we can step up with him and transcend the situation. We can participate in this silence. We step into it with that silence from Psalm 62. Not the resignation, not the helplessness, but the faith-filled, trust-filled silence of God. And say with Paul, the Apostle Paul, I want to know Christ. Yes, to know the power of his resurrection and participation in his sufferings, becoming like him in his death. That's what Paul said. This is the way of Jesus, to enter in and overcome. It's not about dodging and becoming comfortable and stable. So here's what I want you to do this week. I want you to take life as it presents itself to you fully. Whatever you feel about life, whatever you experience about life this week, don't try to gloss it over. Don't try to dodge around it. Just enter into whatever it is and practice this patient, hopeful, faithful trust in God alone that says, you know what, yes, help is on the way, but love is already here and present. And we will rise above this. Practice that silent stillness of surrender in your heart. Practice, it's a form of death that leads to resurrection. And here's what you're going to find. You start practicing this, and you're going to find rest from restlessness. You're going to find your inner life is going to calm down. You're going to learn what it is to be grounded, to be centered, and to be poised to take on life as it presents itself to you. And you will find a cumulative effect happening as you practice silence and stillness. You're going to find that resurrection happens. Small ones that accumulate over time beyond what you can even try on your own by dodging situations. You're going to have an accumulative resurrection experience with God. And then you don't have to fear death, ever. Because the person that doesn't fear death is a force to be reckoned with, right? And Christ has totally, utterly disarmed death of its ability to harm our souls. It's just another gateway to life. So if you actually practice that in faith, and step into those situations in silence, you'll have the accumulative resurrection effect in your life. It took 2 years for me to experience the other side of that church situation. 2 full years. Burnout, depression. It's not glossy, it's not fun, and it's not rosy. But you learn small surrenders that lead you to resurrection in an accumulative effect. Let me pray over us and ask for courage, because this is hard. God of grace, would you calm our soul? Would you silence our restlessness and still our chaos? Jesus, as you spoke over those turbulent waters, the storms of Galilee, when you said, "Peace, be still," and all the waters ceased and stopped, would you say the same thing over our hearts that are just as turbulent? God, as your Spirit hovered over the chaotic waters in Genesis and spoke, "Let there be," and then there was peace, calmness, and order, would you speak over the chaos of our inner life and call into creation our true self, filled with courage and peace and groundedness? God, teach us radical trust by leading us through the wilderness of discontent and want, and teach us a tenacity that passes through fire and water and, yes, even death itself, so that we can take one step beyond all of these things and into resurrection and new life in an accumulative effect, the life that does not fear death. Help us to participate in our own salvation, in our own life and death, and yes, our resurrection. And we ask this in Christ's name. Amen. Guys, thank you so much for enduring the sun and hanging out with us, and I am sweating gloriously up here. We have some snow cones in the back over there. Make sure to say hi to our youth ministry that came back from the Big Stuff retreat, and make sure next week we got another psalm for your playlist, and we got Hot Dog Sunday. Hot dogs for breakfast are awesome here at Thrive. So you guys have a wonderful week, and I will see you when I see you. Peace.